Hello, everybody, and welcome back to NCAA 2005 in the Idaho Vandals Dynasty mode. And we are here at the conclusion of year number 7, and Wake Forest is your national champions. They beat a 4-loss Arkansas team. They had 3 losses before this game, but a 4-loss Arkansas. I don't know what the BCS is in this game. It's just like completely broken. Doesn't make any sense. You see Texas is 10-3, and Notre Dame is 10-2. I have no idea how. Northwestern 12-1. I have no idea how those teams were not better or had better resumes for. I don't get it, but either way, looking over the stats here, Ross Chester has himself an amazing year, the best quarterback season we've had at the helm of the Vandals, better than Matt Norwood the year prior. Keith Bridges has a decent year, career year in terms of touchdowns, doesn't get to that 1,000 mark, but I'll take that from Keith Bridges, especially where he was the year prior. I think I'm okay with that, so. And then Marcus Donnelly, unfortunately, had his year cut short because of the injury, although would like to see some stuff from him. But he's done as well. So Trey Mosley, another decent year here, better than his previous season, but still, no one at that 1,000-yard mark, which, I would have liked to have seen, especially from Roderick Williams. But I think in his role where he was in the depth chart, that probably wasn't going to happen, given how we use him. So, and then Andy Matthews has a decent year for the third guy on the depth chart, pretty decent year. And then same with Bam Blanks, man. Bam Blanks, what a year from him. So we were really using the tight end a lot. Ross Chester loved using that tight end. He averaged almost 10 more yards this season than he did the previous. That's kind of massive. So even Keith Bridges kind of a big receiving contributor. So nice to see. Robert Beasley, man. Look, have a freaking season, Robert Beasley. 53 pancakes to 2 sacks, and that's going to get him All-American honors just completely across the board, not just conference, but in college football. In general, we have a couple big contributors on our offensive line, but that's kind of about it. The rest of our O-line kind of struggled here, and that's kind of be expected with how we shook things up from the previous season. Bryson Rice with 80 tackles leading the defense here, but Luther McNeil is going to lead the team in TFLs, tied with Ryan Winborn at 17 apiece, and we have like 6 guys with 5 sacks on the year too, which is funny, but there's a lot of guys with double-digit TFLs, so maybe that's where our team was really shining, was on defense. Maybe we were a lot more disruptive on defense, and maybe we were truly aware, or I was aware. But yeah, there's a lot of guys with 5 sacks on the roster. I don't know if there's really a sack leader. We got a lot of guys who tapped in for 5 or so. Maybe Jeff Williams will give it to, since he also managed to get 4 interceptions. There's not a lot of guys on the defense that were doing that. And then Jeff Dennis, in his walk-on season here, has a pretty good year. 83% will take that. 21 of 25. With a team like this and the positions we were in, that's good enough. That's good enough for us. So USC wins the Pac-10 for, I think, the 3rd time in this sim. Yeah, it's the 3rd time. They won back-to-back in 04 and 05, and they've won it again. We drop all the way down to 6 after a pretty bad year in conference. There's several teams with worse records in front of us because of how bad we did in conference, but we do manage to win 8 games. So good out-of-conference year is exactly what we were kind of looking for. So that's kind of why I structured the schedule how I did. But now heading into the off-season festivities here, looking over our budgets. We're going to add a little bit more into recruiting and take a little bit from training. There's not a whole lot of benefit to adding to recruiting because we had the sanctions on our scholarships, but I just want a better chance of getting more recruits because we just need more people on the roster to replace who we're losing. And speaking of losing, man, Andy Matthews is leaving. I mean, Andy Matthews is transferred to Hawaii, and he's a guy I really wanted to see grow on this team, but he's leaving, man. He's flying the nest. And Ross Chester's going to graduate early. I guess he thought his season, his junior year, was good enough to get him in the NFL, so he's going to head towards the NFL, probably get drafted in the 6th or 7th round, if that. So good luck, Ross Chester. You're not starting. But anyway, looking over the rest of the rosters, a lot of familiar faces that we figured we were going to lose. Bryant Winborn, Jeff Williams, 2 big contributors on our defense. Keith Bridges is gone. Robert Beasley, who just had a great season on the offensive line for us. Yeah, so a lot of big contributors are leaving the offense. A lot of guys in the offensive line and a couple skill position guys that are kind of a I don't want to say irreplaceable, but it's going to be nigh impossible to replace in just one offseason given our current sanctions and the amount of points that we have physically to recruit each season now. So we'll see how it is. We're going to take a look at the signings now and see exactly how things went. It was a similar class to last year's, and as we only grab about 7 or so. We get 2 4-stars, a guard, and an athlete. I keep grabbing the athletes since there's it's endless kind of what they could be. We could slot them in a lot of skill positions, so I go for it. A 3-star linebacker, tackle, and running back. It will help us replace some of the production that we did lose. The running back position was pretty much decimated because we lost Donnelly and Bridges. We dropped to 88, and look at the company where we're surrounded by. Arkansas State, fellow Sun Belt members here, but I think the sheer number of recruits is what kind of hampered us here because a lot of people around us have a lot more recruits, and we only have 7, so I think that's why we keep dropping in recruiting, but it's not a great recruiting year anyway. Pritchett, this new athlete that we just recruited, we're going to put as a DB. His best position was a quarterback, but we don't need another quarterback. We do need cornerbacks and wide receivers. So he was a 68 there. I figured he might grow into a low to mid 70s by the time he graduates, which would be fine for depth there because we need depth at the position. So looking over training, I took points out of training because there's still enough people on the roster who are high enough overalls where I think just a few points either way will still keep this team competitive, where we don't need to worry about the entire roster getting some sort of boost from training to where we need to divert all of our recruiting and disciplinary points towards training. So I decided to go a little bit lighter on it here and carry a 45% budget on training, and here are the results that you're seeing. So we still have quite a few guys on the team that are all in the 70s. A lot of guys are still in the low to mid 80s too, so I think we still have a decent enough roster. I'm worried though about it competing in the Pac-10, but we will get into that. So quarterback situation, we have a bit of drama here. So we have Deion Washington, a freshman redshirt, who I believe was an athlete that I recruited last year. He is listed as the starter as a freshman. The quarterback stats between him and Dan Worthington are about the same, but Worthington's a junior, so I feel more inclined to start Dan Worthington because he's a junior. Neither Rochester or Dan Worthington showed us a lot during Norwood's injured-riddled season. But Rochester managed to step up to the plate and was actually a decent starter. So I'm hoping that Dan Worthington now, at an 80 overall as a junior, is at least ready to start now. So we're going to go with David Worthington as our starter over Washington. We'll see how that goes. We might be making a change pretty early on into the season. So C.R. Madison's going to be our starting running back after he showed a little bit of flashes towards the end of last year because of the injuries. Stuart Malone coming back for his junior year as our starting fullback. A good fullback at 84 here. So we got a little bit of depth at that position as well. Roderick Williams, our top receiver at 89. He's only a junior, man, so we might lose him if he has a good year this year, but up to an 89. Trey Mosley's an 84. Payne is a 74 that we're having at fourth, and Doug Nolan's going to be back as well. Then we have Bratton, who's fifth on the depth chart. So Bam Blank's coming back for his senior year, a 92 overall tight end. Rex McClure is going to start on the left at left tackle. Hill's going to be at left guard. Falk is going to be starting center. Jason Miles is going to be right guard, and then Dominique Durham is going to start at right tackle. So our O-line's really struggling, man. McClure's at left end. We're going to have to make a change at right end, but either way, we're still going to have like 70s on the defensive line. Lewis Sharp starting defensive tackle. Jonathan Dangerfield's going to be behind him. Matt Hutcherson. We're going to make some moves at linebacking position because we have the depth there. Bryson Rice is going to start at the middle linebacking position, though, but we're going to move out Hutchinson in favor of Lewis on the left side. On the right side, we're going to move out Troy Ferguson, and we're going to put in Jackie Johnson to start on the right side. So the linebacking core is actually going to look a little bit solid here, barring any significant injuries to it. So any injuries, then we might be in some tough water here talking about the depth there. But Philip Tolvert's going to start things off at top DB. Kramer's going to be behind him. Fields behind him. Eli Weiss behind him. And then Charlie Pritchett, the athlete that we just converted to a cornerback, is going to be at the bottom here. So we've got some depth here. Johnson and Douglas are going to be our free safeties. And then Broderick Ryan is going to be our starting senior at 82. Probably one of the best players on the defense, honestly. And then Dennis up to a 68, and then Landrum as a sophomore is at an 84. So that is how the roster shakes up. I know it was really quick, but it's okay. We'll get into the season. It'll be all right. We're putting Boise State back on the schedule. Our Sun Belt game is going to be against Utah State, and then the power opponents, power 6 opponents that we're going to play are Illinois and West Virginia on the road. So kind of a tougher out-of-conference schedule that we're kind of looking at here, but I want to keep things competitive, man. We still need to compete in the Pac-10. I'm not sure if we can with the roster we have now, so it might be an interesting season. But either way, this will probably end up being the last one. So I hope to see you guys in the next video when we start off against Boise State.